Hello everybody, my name is Max and welcome back to From the Depths. So today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to be doing a collaboratory build, or a collaboration build. Not something I've done before, so it should be interesting. I'm doing it with BWI Games official. He's gone, and Damaddok is also gone. The way this works is that we each get an hour, and then after the hour we hand it off to the next person. So BWI Games official has gone first. He has made us a hull. Damaddok has gone second. He has made us turrets, and I am going third. So my plan walking into this was I wanted to make at least the engines and torpedoes. Everything else above that was all extra. I realized that we're leaving a lot for Aiyonmk to do, but he's a lot more experienced than I am, so hopefully he can pull it off. As you see, we've got the timer in the top left-hand corner there. 1 hour. It started as soon as I pressed the designer mode button. That's when the hour started. So I'm just having a look around the ship at the moment because I haven't actually looked at this ship before in game. I watched everyone else's video on it before attempting this. Well, I say that. The only video that was out by the time I was attempting this was a BWI Games official. So I'm just testing the ammo rack, and you see it exploded with the second hit there, which is concerning because when Damaddok tested it, it was supposed to be able to withstand those sorts of things, and obviously when I did it, it definitely couldn't. So I'm placing the engines below decks. This is a hydrofoil craft, of course. You may have noticed with the huge hydrofoils. So it's kind of like everywhere is a little bit vulnerable, so that's why I'm adding some extra armor on the inside there. BWI Games official has gone with coloring the armor. I usually recently color the armor, but I don't like to color the inside armor, if that makes sense. And I also don't like to color my applique panels or applique panels because you can see them when you look in the Shift P menu, so really what's the point? So the other rule of this little challenge is that there are no prefabs. None. You cannot use something that you've already made, if that makes sense. So you can't use any prefabs, not even the ones on the build screen. So I just had a look at them there just to see how big my space was and see what we can fit in here. For the engines, we were going not for power and not for efficiency. We were going simply for durability. That is it. That was the only plan, just to ensure that the engines will actually survive. Which is not easy to ensure in From the Depths. Sometimes the engines just explode for no reason. I did end up not using the design that you see me building right now. What happened was I wasn't very careful when I was placing these turbochargers, the ones that you see right now, and so I couldn't get them to exhaust out of the ship, which is clearly an issue. Speaking of the exhausts, this time, which is the first time I've ever done this, as you can see, I'm actually just connecting the exhaust right now. I'm about to realize my problem once I cut holes in the hull. I decided to exhaust the exhaust through the bottom of the ship this time. Because that's the feedback I got on my previous video where I made my heavy cruiser, the one that I made, the Broderick class. There we go. I'm not entirely sure if that was the correct choice for this specific ship. Just FYI, prefabs which have been made for this ship, i.e. things I've made, I can prefabricate if I already did it on this ship. We can't bring prefabs from another ship, is the deal. So just to make it clear, that's completely legal there. So I just had a look at the outside of the ship because I was wondering, since this is a hydrofoil, can I strap a custom jet engine to it? And I do try to, but I couldn't make it look very good. It does really increase the speed though, so if Aiyonmk would like to strap a jet engine to it, I think that would be a very good decision. Alternatively, if we don't have a functional ship by the time Aiyonmk has finished his hour, we may all get another 10 minutes or so, and if I do get another 10 minutes or so, another hour or whatever I end up getting, I will definitely add another a custom jet engine, just because it increased the speed so much, and we actually have quite a lot of engine power left over. So I think I've just realised that I can't connect the pipes up, so I'm now currently panicking to see if there's anywhere I can throw a radiator, which would, sort of fix the problem, but I've come to the conclusion that I cannot. So currently connection rules are off, and I realise that a lot of people like to build with connection rules off, and that's fine. I don't know how to turn them back on, and I never build with them. So it kind of slowed me down a little bit, having to constantly delete everything as opposed to just letting it fall apart. So we're doing the engine again. It's the same rough design, although I am currently debating if I want to change the design to something else. I'm building the engines upwards. I'm wondering if I could do it lengthwise, you know, like a normal engine, I guess. I decide against that just because I want to have multiple engine blocks separated by a light alloy. So if we lose one engine, it's not the end of the world. We can still keep going. It's hard to say how much engine power Aeon is going to end up using. The propellers that we have strapped onto this at the moment, I think, are insufficient to produce enough thrust to actually get us to any significant speed. But aside from that, I think the engines that we have are actually capable of quite a lot of speed. So if Aeon wants to strap jet engines or something, it would work perfectly. Oh, delicious cup of tea. Anyway, so I believe this is the design I finally settled on. We're going with a lot of carburetors because I want it to be efficient, but I need it to be small. So we're going with carburetors and a lot of superchargers. The hope is that will keep the resource cost low when we're just traveling around the map. And then when we're in a fight, maybe we can burn a few more materials and have some shields or some lasers or something like that, you know? So that we're not constantly burning whatever it is. I believe they can run at a maximum of like 30 materials per minute or something with all the engines. So not bad. So I have finally decided that these are the engines I wanted. I've made the little armor block around them and I'm now placing down two more engines on each side. So for a final value of 6 engines. I'm hoping that gives Aeon enough engine power to mess around with some things. I'm also just armoring the engines up even more because I'm so determined, or at least I was so determined, that I would not cause the ship to explode. Someone else would cause the ship to explode. It wouldn't be me. I'm definitely the smallest YouTuber in this collab, and I'm definitely the least experienced from the Depths players. So I'm doing my absolute best to not cause everything to detonate. I did want to armor the ammo rack, or move the ammo rack. You'll see me looking at it a lot later on in the video. I'm just currently messing with the exhausts. I'm not entirely sure if this is a good exhaust plan, because we've got a lot of places where heat seekers could aim at. But, you know, I kind of went with it now. Well, it's set in stone now. But, yeah, we'll see how that works out for us. We'll see if... I'm hoping that the bottom of the ship is going to be in the water or close to the water, so that heat seekers are not going to be able to shoot. Let's see, I'm just testing that the engine power is actually significant. We do lose a little bit of engine power to overheating over time, but it's not so much that I'm worried about it. And I do have a radiator on there, and the engines are all, you know, exhausted. All right, so my next plan is I wanted either a Sea-Whiz gun, which I didn't end up making, or a LAM system. I'm currently making a LAM system. I don't have much space for it. It's really not an ideal spot for a LAM system. They're really small, and they're not really that efficient. But it is technically a functional LAM system. So it can do stuff, probably. I don't know. We'll see how good it is when we test the ship against another ship at some point. But yeah, we're just currently strapping a small LAM to it, just so it can have something. We got some 3 meters scattered in with some 1 meters. It means that overall they can charge it in 4 seconds, which, if you ask me, is probably too much. You know, we can probably switch out one of the capacities for another damage, but I didn't end up doing that because I didn't have a lot of time to test it. You would usually like to add Q switches as well, but again, I just did not have the space to add any Q switches. It was so crammed in there. It was such a desperate thing that I just did not have the time. Also, you may notice that the LAM systems are not perfectly symmetrical. Obviously, I had to turn it off because I wanted both LAMs to be able to fire from both sides, if that makes sense. I didn't want the left-hand side LAM to only deal with the left-hand side, because then if we're being shot from the right, the left-hand LAM is just, you know, writing a book or something. It's not actually useful to us. So I had to turn off the symmetry to make that work, and obviously once I did that, a mistake was inevitable. I would have fixed it, but I didn't notice until I had actually finished the boat. And obviously once I'd finished it, my hour was up. I couldn't do anything. So I'm currently complaining about BWI Games officials' armoring scheme because I have to keep switching my colors, and it's really annoying me. I'm not saying that's a bad idea. Like, I do that for all my ships. I was just complaining about it at the time. So I am currently patching together the worst AI in human history because I need to test if the LAM system actually works. So there is the enemy ship. As you can see, the LAM systems did manage to destroy a few things. They weren't really that efficient. Okay, that was super important right there. I'm not entirely sure what happened, but if you saw, we had a huge ammo rack explosion. The turret went and the ammo rack went. We got hit by a cram cannon there from the crossbones. I'm not sure what happened. Because again, Damaddok has assured me that the ammo rack is not capable of detonating. Or at least when he tested it, it didn't detonate. But when I tested it, it definitely did detonate. I'm not sure if it was actually the ammo rack that exploded, or maybe perhaps it was the turret, and the turret exploding then took out the ammo rack. I'll leave that to Aiyonmk to mess with. Anyway, so with a successful test, I'm now working on the torpedoes for the front of the craft. It's got kind of a Warhammer vibe, if you ask me. So, when BWI Games Official, also known as Random, because that's his name in the Discord, when he was working on them, he was talking about having a 2x2 torpedo at the front here. I could not make that fit, and I didn't want to ruin the rather nice looking sort of front of the ship, so I decided against that, and we just went with the 1x1s. I think it's fine, probably. As you can see, my time was very much ticking at this point. We were running out, and I didn't have a lot of stuff that I could do. I just needed to get something done. So I did get something done. But yeah, working on the torpedoes. Really working very fast on the torpedoes. I would have liked to have just been able to, like, copy one torpedo over to the other, but I have them set up as two different missile systems, so I have to save it on one, then run to the other, load it on the other, and then then I can get it done. So it's really not ideal, but it'll work, probably. I don't know, we'll find out. Well, when I say we, I mean we'll all find out when we test the ship. We're hoping to be able to test it together. I don't know if that's going to work. Working on torpedoes, trying to make some faster than others. Unfortunately, they were not all the same size. The top ones are significantly smaller than the bottom ones. So I'm just trying to make sure that some of the torpedoes are faster than the others. It might have been worth doing small torpedoes, like a small missile launcher, on the top, but I didn't end up doing that. Right, so I'm currently thinking jet engines. And I'm currently testing jet engines. The jet engines were not really a good idea in the end. I couldn't make them look good, and as we all know, looks are the most important thing. Also, I wasn't sure if BWI Games Official was actually thinking jet engines for his hydrofoil. I didn't want to ruin his craft, because clearly he didn't plan on having jet engines, because if he did, there would have been space for them. But it definitely increased the speed significantly, especially considering that the hydrofoil is still very much in the water. But I did end up not keeping them. If I get more time, if we haven't finished by the end of the hour, then I might go back and see if I can keep them. So time's ticking, and I'm trying to mess around with jet engines. I've decided I don't want jet engines, because I don't have enough time to prototype and make them look good, and I don't want to just leave something strapped on. And what I did say that I was going to do in the Discord is I said that I wanted to work on AI, and I haven't started to work on AI yet. And I've got, not a lot of time, so I'm just currently throwing things down just to see if I can get an AI quickly and efficiently. And the answer is, it's not great. we're wrapping the AI in heavy armor. Obviously, we've got the standard hull armor. And we'll put some heavy armor on the top. I'm trying to leave space for Aeon so we can add some Seawis cannons or some secondary guns. I want Seawis cannons, personally, because I think the ship is going to be vulnerable depending on how fast it actually ends up being. So I think Seawis cannons would be a good investment. But obviously I don't control... It's up to Aeon now what he wants to do, not what I want to do. Because I didn't add Seawis cannons and I had a chance to and I didn't do it. I'm throwing together an AI right now. I am like, I'm just like, yep, we got barely any time left. That'll do. I'm trying to make it obvious that I'm leaving space for turrets. I'm wrapping it in applique armor or applique armor, and I put heavy armor on the top, and that's it. The hands are off the keyboard. I do not touch it again. I am in build mode. I'm not building anything. I'm just having a look, that's all. So what I was wondering is if I could perhaps paint it. I didn't end up painting it because my time was up, but I did wonder if I should paint it. I wondered if anyone would mind if I painted it, because I wouldn't be changing anything, I would just be painting it, but my time was up, so I decided that I wasn't going to touch anything. I was just going to leave it exactly how it was when I ran out of time. So this is what we're sitting at the moment. We got a really crap LAM system, we got some meh engines, and we've got a meh AI, which was thrown together in literally about 30 seconds, I believe I had by the end of it when I finally started putting the AI down. So it was a real mess. Anyway, I thank you all very much for watching. I know it's been a slightly different video than it usually is. I know I usually record these in person. I record them as I'm doing it, and I would have done this for this one as well, but unfortunately the microphone decided, well, I blame the microphone, it's actually my fault. What happened is that in my last video, the guns were too quiet, too loud I mean, so what I did to fix that was I turned the gain up on my microphone, and to be honest, it sounded like I was doing air traffic control. It was not a good sound. So scrapped that, and obviously I'm now recording this post. Also, my video is slightly different than everyone else's because everyone else kind of just didn't want to like do a time lapse. I have done a time lapse, so I hope it doesn't make it a disaster if mine's different than everyone else's. I just usually like to keep my videos under 20 minutes if I can. Anyway, that is all I have for you today. I thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one, whatever that next one will be. Bye for now.